Well, hey there team, welcome back to the channel, welcome to my overview of the Inquisitor. I've called these review in progress, all sorts of things. Essentially what this is it's a shorter, quicker, I look at the first 2 hours of the game and give you a bit of an idea of what's going on here. Steam says that that's a refund window, and I think that's a reasonable position as well. If you can't make up your mind about whether you want to play a game or not in the first 2 hours, chances are 20 hours in, it's not going to change your mind either. It also cuts both ways because I have so many different games that I want to showcase, but I can't review all of them. So at least by doing this, it helps me triage and figure out what I want to review going forward. So look, let's get it out of the way. You've already figured it out. You've already seen it. The graphics, character models, even the textures, they're yuck, right? They're outdated to be generous. Now, if that's not a real big deal for you, then you might find something really magic and special in this game, and personally, I don't mind either. I actually have a real soft spot for ambitious, janky AA games that maybe don't look brilliant, but they spend, instead of spending 90% of their time trying to polish the game, or polish the graphics of a game, they instead develop it in other ways. And in this case, it's with the narrative, with the story. It's really interesting. Ultimately, you're an Inquisitor for the church. However, this is, for lack of a better term, it's an alternate history Christianity. I can't believe I'm saying this out loud, but this, from what I understand so far, is the idea that when Jesus is being crucified on the cross, I suppose he decided, no, we're going to do things a bit differently, and he breaks down off the cross. That's why you can see all the little crucifixes are sort of twisted in this, like all these little details in the art direction. So he gets down off the cross and kills the blokes in charge, leads an army led by his apostles against the Roman legions. From what I understand, gets the consuls of Rome to kneel down before him and becomes like king of the empire, right? Little bit different to what you might have been taught in bloody religious school. I guess if you're particularly sensitive to this, you might find it, blasphemous, I guess would be the correct term. And honestly, like I kind of went hard on Suicide Squad deconstructing Batman and all that sort of stuff, and I personally see a distinct difference between here. While I could see an argument being that you shouldn't really fuck with religion, full stop. Like, I understand, protect the sanctity of it, just leave it be. This seems to, in earnest, just be exploring an interesting alternate story. It's not really, well, at least so far, who knows? If I review it, maybe it will change. But so far, it's not trying to deconstruct or be some sort of critical analysis of Christianity. It's just doing a different scenario, which is really interesting. Like, a lot of the virtues in that are different. For example, I think mercy's a sin in this universe. So, like, they've got these things weaved in with the way that he talks and prays. Speaking of praying, you've got, like, press pray to X-ray vision. This is the second game in this week that I've had do that. I never thought I'd see a game ever do that. But the sort of narrative, the story, the world that it's built in is pretty wild, and I'm kind of here for it. I'm really, really intrigued. So look, the broad strokes are you're dispatched to this city because there are rumors of a vampire being there. Now, the game's actually dancing around it, and I love it. I don't really know if vampires are real in this universe, and you do see this in some sort of inquisitorial type movies and that, you know. Is there actually a supernatural component? You know, things like Black Death comes to mind. So it's not really clear where the supernatural line gets drawn in this. So that's sort of your impetus. You're trying to find out this vampire and you're getting dragged into local intrigue. And so far, even with the janky looking and the voice acting is hit and miss, you've got cinematic blocking and a narrative that's really well constructed so far. It's actually really, really compelling. And then you've got this wild stuff, which apparently this Inquisitor has kind of Witcher powers and that, so like it is blurring the line between like Witcher 1. In fact, it feels like Witcher 1 in a way that this maybe was made at the same time and put in a time capsule. For better and worse, right? So yeah, okay, it looks like it's 10 years graphically outdated, but also like all the banter from all the characters around, they're vulgar villagers. Like I wouldn't say it's immersion breaking, but it's definitely not carrying water for modern sensibilities, right? A lot of dudes talking about the tits on this chick over there and that sort of stuff, right? So like it's pretty, well, dare I say, it's in universe. The villagers standing around being vulgar, talking shit. It kind of makes sense. But yeah, your dude's got like some sort of special poison powder that he uses. It's an Inquisitor weapon and it's off limits to everyone else. So You know, they're James Bonding him up a bit. You can pray and you can go into this alternate underworld dimension, which is kind of reminds me of like Daywatch, of all the weird Euro things that you could reach for. And through there, you cruise around along trying to find clues and that sort of stuff, and you're hunted by this like dark, evil octopus presence. Like they're swinging for the fences, and even me saying these words is not really doing it justice, because you might just laugh and think it's all memes, but the game plays it so straight, it's all working. That's the wildest thing. If you sat me down and said, Scarlett, you're going to play a game where it's an alternate version of Christianity, where Jesus is more of a wrathful, vengeful God, and there's a whole world built with nuance and art direction, like going into the cathedrals and all that, like, which are all very beautiful as far as, you know, tapestries and leaded glass on the walls, and all the storytelling through the world and environmental design is top notch. There's also like little cutscenes which are really high quality as well. And the more you play it and the more you get involved into it, you realize that this is actually a really considered, passionate project. And funnily enough, the one thing most people will be hung up on, which would be like ugly character models, is like the one weak part. Everything else is really interesting. Well, I don't want to be disingenuous. The gameplay feels dated as well. The combat's got a janky charm to it. I mean, if you remember Assassin's Creed 1 and 2 fondly, you've got like a rudimentary attack and parry system. Again, I'm not trying to sound like I'm carrying water, but once you're immersed into this game out of time, this game that just feels in all the right ways from 10 years ago, in a way, the dated gameplay kind of feels at home as well. I mean, look, that sounds like cope, maybe it is, but I'm totally aware at least that this gameplay is, you know, quick times and janky combat, an eavesdropping mechanic that actually is pretty good. I bet you'd never hear that before. Everyone hates all the eavesdropping from the old Assassin's Creed, but this one you sort of go into a observer cam and fly around and listen. I still don't love the idea of eavesdropping as a mechanic full stop, but this is probably the best version that I've seen of it. Anyway, look, this is wild. It's a trip, and I didn't know this is what I was getting into. And again, this is why we try games. This is why I try and shout out as many interesting games as possible, because even just looking at the marketing material, looking at trailers and that sort of stuff, you would have no idea what this game is. And my hope is that I've at least made you curious. Chuck it on your wish list if it's too steep, or take the dive if you're looking for some sort of compelling single player narrative thing, but you don't mind weathering a bit of jank. So yeah, I think it's quite good. There's a good chance that I do review it. However, look, we're in like bloody first or second week of February, and I'm already swamped with bangers to cover. So we'll see, but it's definitely under consideration. I really, really find this quite compelling. Anyway, team, I might just leave it there for the time being, and I'll catch you guys on the next one.